Hello and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Night Later, the show where sketch teachers and writers break down SNL sketches so we can learn about the structure that goes into writing sketch comedy. I'm your host, Marina Templesman, the writer of the upcoming book, Unusual Things, a guide to sketch comedy for writers, fans, and everyone else. And I'm joined by my amazing co-host and author of the Substack My Comedy Fantasy, Madeline Baldanzi.
Hello.
Hello, Madeline. And with us today is a very special guest. He performed at the UCB for over 15 years, where he was also the academic director, and he co-hosts the podcast Screw It. We're just going to talk about comics with his brother, Will Hines. Please welcome Kevin Hines. Welcome, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I'm real excited to do this.
I'm so excited to have you here. I feel like we all three of us got to like nerd out about sketch in the teacher's lounge way back in the day, and it has been far too long. So I'm really excited to get to nerd out about this episode with both of you. There's some really interesting stuff this one. Before we dive into the episode, I'll say, as I always do, that the reason the show exists is because as sketch teachers, we always tell students to see as many shows as you can. And it's wonderful to have a show that so many people can watch and talk about and learn from and think about what works for them as they kind of hone their taste and their craft, and what they like about sketch comedy and what makes a sketch work. So we're very, very lucky that SNL is so available to all of us to watch and learn from. So before we dive into any specific sketches, I'd love to just first do a temperature check. Like, what were kind of broad takeaway thoughts on this episode before we dive in on a sketch by sketch basis?
The bar for SNL for me these last few years has not been super high.
Mm-hmm.
But despite that, I was still a little disappointed just because I think Matt Damon could be a great host,
Mm-hmm.
and he was fine. And I wasn't expecting a great episode, but I was expecting maybe like 20% better than this, and it
Mm-hmm.
didn't quite hit that. And so that's sort of disappointing when I'm like, I wasn't shooting for the moon, and we didn't even get to what I was hoping for, and that sort of surprised me.
Yeah, totally. Madeline, how about you? What did you think?
I too was a little bit like, was Matt Damon just okay? I don't know. He felt a little sleepy. I'm weirdly like blaming the host on this one or something.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe it's that my expectations of Matt Damon are really high, but he felt a little sleepy or something.
There's
I'm
a
not
specific
sure.
sketch that I think is kind of all on him. It's a tough sketch, but anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah, I don't like blaming the host, but I just know Matt Damon gives off sort of like a game vibe. Like he's game for anything. He's like into it. Like he'll make fun of himself. He'll do whatever. And so you sort of think like, oh, those are the sort of actors that generally do really well on this.
Yeah, I kind of can't believe I said that, but like that, my whole vibe of it was like Matt Damon was sleepy.
Okay, I'm really interested to go through sketch by sketch because I actually thought Matt Damon was was fine. I actually thought that a lot of the sketches just had a really big heightening problem and and some of the sketches became sleepy in a way that I think probably implicated him. But I'm excited to talk about it because I think we have, and this also is, as you can learn from listening to us talk too, we might have different takeaways from the sketches in this episode, as is often always the case, right? But I think that there's something interesting about this one. I agree. There was like a sleepiness kind of, I think we'll kind of, as we talk through it, we'll get a sense of like maybe each sketch had its own different thing going on that added up to a general sense of sleepiness. I will say though, with this show, I was there were a couple of big swings in here that I really liked that were like, were they successful? Maybe. But I really liked the swing of it. So we'll get into it as we go along. Now that I feel like you're like, I don't know what swing you're talking about.
I mean, maybe one sketch. I can't wait to find out.
Okay, we'll figure it out as we go. All right, cool. So to kick us off, let's always, as always, we talk about the cold open, which again is often sort of the least sketchy of the sketches. But we'll just dive in and talk about that one because this one was actually a little bit more structured, like a sketch. But yeah, Madeline, I know you've had a number of issues with the Pete Hegseth portrayal, and I suspect this one is no different.
Well, okay. So one thing that teachers would always say at UCB with character sketches is if you have a character with a really strong game, and this isn't always true, but a lot of times if you can put them in different situations and they can play their game in multiple places, that's usually a good sign that you have a nice, strong game. And then you want to think of the places that will activate their game the most, right? So we have Pete Hegseth, who is whose game is like immature bro, I think they've settled on, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
And boy, do I not like jokes about alcoholism. So if you're thinking about where to put this immature bro character, like bar to me is the best place to put them if you want to make a bunch of jokes about his drinking, but that is my least favorite part of it. So for me, I just wrote down, stop trying to make Hegseth happen. Don't just put him somewhere else. But yeah, it did activate that part of his game, I guess, by putting him in a DC bar.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Kevin? What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, I like seeing the host in the cold open. I
Mhm.
always get excited when that happens. I think
Yeah.
that's fun. I mean, I didn't necessarily think about the location a lot, though. That is true. I don't actually mind if they made alcoholism not the game, but if they like hit that idea, but they don't really hit it as like a negative thing. They hit it as sort of like a quirk.
Mm.
Like, look at these guys. These guys all drink too much. And it's like, okay, but isn't that horrible? And like, they could play that up more, like the fact that they're all like maybe functioning alcoholics or something in positions of extreme power. But that's not necessarily addressed so much as like, it's a problem is they're not quite hard enough to where it's almost cool.
Yeah.
I wrote
Like,
down, I think if these guys watched this, they would like it.
I think
Which
most
is
of
a
them probably
problem.
would. And like
Yeah.
Hegseth, like hitting the jukebox is like a Fonzie move. I mean, he did it to turn off the music, which is, I guess, the opposite of Fonzie, but like that's a Fonzie move.
Yeah.
And maybe that dates myself there, talking about the happy days, but it's like Fonzie equals cool, hitting the. It's like, don't let him be cool.
Yeah.
Like there's moments in the other openings where we've seen him and where he's not cool, like he seems unhinged and but like because we don't even have the reporters, like he just seems like just a guy hanging out at a bar having a good time with his two bros, and it's so you lose what they're trying to say. And I do think they're trying to say like it's insane that we've got three guys like this.
Yeah.
It doesn't come across that well.
I think so too. I think it's like when you talk about where you're setting your character, as Madeline was saying before, it's sort of like you talk about like this is kind of a blue on blue, right? It's like Debbie Downer said at a funeral home. It's like, yeah, it's a bummer. You know what I mean? It's sort of just, I think that with this one, if a student brought this sketch into me, I think my main, so actually start with a few things about it. First, I will say, I think that I like that Matt Damon was in it. I do think that some of the like Brett Kavanaugh jokes felt like they were kind of harkening way back, like the squeeze stuff and all of that. I felt like that felt a little old to me. Here's what I did like though, that I thought could have been dialed up a little bit. And if a student brought it in, I'd call attention to this. When there's a moment where they're like, you know what? Like leading, keep this a secret, but we're going to let Trump do a third term. I was like, okay, so here's actually, this is a fun specific we're playing with here. Cause it's like, okay, the bros like catching up, like having a catch up. Like, what have you been up to? I feel like if they had actually leaned in more to that structure, instead of having the beats be driven by like new entrances, I think you could have had something a little bit more interesting here and like something a little bit more fun. But instead I feel like it got lost in the referenciness that a cold open often does. But I think catch-up beats would have actually been cleaner and more fun.
I think at the end of the day, Matt Damon played Kavanaugh when he was going through his hearings. Like he came on SNL to play Kavanaugh. I think they were just like, let's bring Matt Damon's here. Let's put these two guys together. I think that was the end of the thought process.
Yeah.
And that sort of shows in what they come up with. It's like, oh, they did that.
Yeah, but I think that would have lent itself even better to like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long or something like that. And I think that it could have just hit that a little bit more and used that as more, I don't know, to fuel more stuff.
Or even if like Kavanaugh's mad, like you're stealing my thing, man. I'm that guy. Like, there's other take but there wasn't one. There was just like three bros hanging out and being, having a good time.
Yeah, right. And like, there's so many different wrinkles too that you could have, like, there an intervention for, but that would probably put Kavanaugh in the voice of reason. You probably don't want that in the sketch, but like, there's different ways to make that dynamic, to make the scene more interesting, which is separate from making the game more strong or interesting. But I think that there's definitely some something that could have been fine-tuned here to just get something a little stronger. That said, I kind of do agree that, like, the Pete Hegseth impression or the character in general, I'm still just finding, like, a little whatever. Oh, I also do wanna call attention to one thing. The, Kash Patel, the beat of, like, this is the whatever, the whiskey and, like, yes, this is a real thing. Like, I was like I found that to be, like, a pretty lazy non-joke because it's like yes, that has been in the news a bunch. We know it. I think, like, it was like trying to get a laugh out of something that truly was not earning a laugh, and I think that that is something to keep an eye out for in your own writing. If it's, like, a reference that isn't actually a joke, but there's, like, a wink at the audience instead, like, that's, like, you're sort of you're kind of cheating in 2 ways in a way, and I would just keep an
Yeah.
eye out for that.
I mean, I've seen that move work. Like South
Yeah.
Park, when they did their Mormon episode way before Book of Mormon, they like had across the bottom of the screen, like, this is all true. Everything, like,
Yeah.
because it's so outlandish, they're just like, we need to remind the audience this is all true. So, like, that
Totally.
can work in
I think it
scenarios,
ca
but
I
yeah,
completely agree, but I
yeah,
think that in a sketch that also feels a little lazy in
yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
ways, I think it felt a little extra. And they
If
also
if it
did
was the
that's
only moment,
yeah.
yeah.
They also had a "this is real" joke in the next sketch too, so it was, like, a little much. But anyway, yeah, anything else you guys wanna say about this sketch before we move on?
You can't end with the random Chumbawamba reference.
Oh, yeah, and that was, like, pretty depressing, all the men jumping up and down. I found that really depressing, honestly. But yeah, the random Chumbawamba reference was a little, like, I guess that's the way to end a sketch, I don't know.
You
But
say you
yeah,
can't, but they did,
They
so
did,
you
they did,
can.
you're
Yes,
right.
you
they
can
did
do it.
it. They
I'm
proved us
wrong.
wrong. All right, awesome. Yeah, this my main note for if a student brought this in would be just, like, tidy this up, use the structure of, like, catching up with a friend at a bar and, get rid of some of the jokes that feel like they're sort of just floating, from years past, basically.
I like to imagine you teaching a class, and every week a student brings in a different Pete Hegseth sketch. I
I
got
mean,
another
honestly,
one.
I would not be surprised if that's happening in sketch classes right now. Like, right? Like, I think that we've all probably had students who have, like, sort of a pet topic that they like to come back to. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's I bet someone out there is like, "Oh, I have that student," or "I have that person in the sketch group I'm directing right now," right? And if that's the case, I encourage you to vary it up a little bit more. All right. Shall we talk about the monologue? Were there things? Okay, yes. Well, okay. What were your thoughts on the monologue over here?
I thought it was cute. I mean, it was sort of two little things going on, right? With
Mhm.
the creepy guy stalking Marco's mom.
Yeah, Marcelo's mom. Yeah, yeah.
Marcel's mom, Marco. Well, I don't know why I said Marco. And then also the message to the mom,
Yes.
which, like, none of them hit super hard, but I did like that they tied the message to the mom back into his monologue bit about his
Yes.
movie coming out in 9 weeks.
That
That
was
was a
very
nice
funny.
callback.
That was very
Like,
funny.
that surprised me and made me laugh. But I kind of think one or the other probably works better. Like, more of the creepy guy or more of this mom message thing was
Yeah.
probably strong. It wasn't quite enough to do. I liked both ideas decently. It's just like they're sort of half ideas.
I think there's also something about drawing attention to the fun thing you're not doing, which is we're not doing all the moms this year. It, and that's always fun. And it makes you feel like, oh, so something else fun is going to happen, or
Yeah.
it's going to actually happen. And then it doesn't. It just kind of would have been better to not do it. I don't know. There's
Right.
something fun about like by saying something's not going to happen that you're promising the fun of it in a
Yes.
sketch, or especially in like a variety show, kind of like this.
Yeah, I thought
That
for
felt
sure they
like
were
a
setting
little
up.
bit muted when it didn't
Yeah.
materialize.
Yeah, it felt like
Yeah.
they were for sure setting up all the moms being there anyway.
Yes, I think that this was the beginning of the weird pacing thing here a little bit because I was like, I genuinely was a little confused here, and I think the audience was like trying to listen. I do think there was a nice reset when there was a message to the mom, as Kevin, as you said. Like, I think though that with the moms aren't going to be here. I also is this maybe I'm being foolish, but who do we know who that was? The person in the audience is that a person?
Just a writer
The
for the show.
man,
Oh, it was just a writer? Okay, okay. I
Yeah.
wasn't sure. I was like, I was trying to figure out if it was a cast member who I wasn't recognizing or something. Anyway, so I was first like trying to figure out if that was a person who I should know. And then when Marcelo's mom came out, I was like, wait, is that really? his mom or not. Um,
It
and
was.
it was, yeah. And then like
But
at the
I
end of the show,
only knew that from looking at Marcella's Instagram other
right.
times.
Right. So yeah, so I think that that was confusing. And as we've talked about before on this show, like confusing your audience is really it takes them out very quickly from being able to go along for the ride. So I think that that was just a little bit of a confusing way to kick off the monologue. I think that when we got to the very clear like message for your mom, there were some really fun specifics in that. Again, that callback was great.
I would have just gone for Matt Damon doing like oh, but your mom doesn't like that kind of thing. Here's something for a different
Yeah.
kind of mom.
Yes.
Like that would have been great.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think there's so many ways to like expand on that and make that really, really fun.
And a good use of like Matt Damon's likability.
Yes. Absolutely. I think so too. I think that would have been a really, yeah, I think that would have been a really fun alternative. I like that. I wish we got to see that. All right, should we move on to the first sketch of the night?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was the Monster Channel sketch. Like a guy keeps doing spit takes onto one of the were they on a submarine? I can't remember, but onto the I don't know what the word is for this.
A ship,
It
a
was
boat of some sort. Yeah.
they were okay. They were on a boat or submarine or something. Okay, because I
Yeah.
realized I was like maybe they were anyway.
They may have been on a destroyer. I can't remember. I think it was
Okay.
above water. So.
Oh yeah. No, it was about right. I'm now remembering that they had the little visual card
Yeah.
at the beginning. Right. Okay. So he keeps having spit takes down on him. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about this one. What stood out to you guys for this one?
I mean, they do this gag anyway. So just sort of like they do this gag sometimes it's like a sub gag in other sketches. So just that this is all they're doing. And I don't know, you get way ahead of it. You get way ahead of it real fast.
Yeah.
Like the second Mikey Day got spit on the second time when it didn't seem like it was aiming at him, you're like, well, we know where this is going throughout.
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun, but not enough. Like that's not enough. Like the setup becomes the laugh, right? Here, everyone take waters, everyone take this soup.
Yeah.
Like that becomes the joke instead of the spit take, which feels weird for a sketch filled with spit takes.
Yeah, I had the same feeling with this one. I was like, I got a little impatient with it because I think you're right that like the fun is the kind of improbability of the setups coming up, but it didn't really feel like it was carrying the fun quite enough. And and then I think there was one thing that did surprise me that I liked was like, oh, I know Japanese. Like that was a fun, genuinely unexpected moment for me. But I think there was sort of like an issue. This is sort of what I mean in terms of like maybe the writing to me seeming like a little bit not supporting like stronger scenes in general here because I was like, I think that we're just kind of treading water. I don't know that having more or less voice of reason would have helped necessarily. I sort of feel like maybe this is just this game just laid out across the scene, just like is a little bit of a mismatch. That was sort of my thought. Just takes too long.
Yeah. I think it was to me it was a boring scene that I've seen before. I also was in a sketch where I had to spit on Bridie Elliott once, and like when there's spit sketches, like all I can think of is like, oh, this is actually so much worse to perform than we realize. Like it does not feel good to spit on your friends, you guys.
I remember I was on the same team as you for that sketch, and I remember I got to opt out of it because I was like, I have food allergies, so I can't. No one can spit on me.
It was horrible. It was honestly horrible. But like sometimes you come up with an idea and then you go to do it and you're like, oh no, this is horrible. So part of me always thinks about that. But I do think like if a student in a class brought in this sketch, I would be like, great job, right? Like the game is clear. It does heighten. I am completely ahead of it, but like they do generate lots of beats in new ways that generally heighten, right? So that's good. I was just curmudgeonly like, I can't believe this is the game of the first sketch of the night. However, Dara, who's sitting next to me, who is like a pretty big comedy fan, was really funny. So I was sort of like, oh, okay. And I asked him why he thought it was funny. Was it the spit takes? He was like, no, Mikey just seems so upset, but keeps taking it. That was funny. And so I guess maybe I in a way, respect the voice of reasoning in this one, as just sort of letting it happen and then getting to "Please stop, I'm so wet," right at the very end, maybe as, like, a good example of you can just let something happen to someone over and over when you wouldn't in real life. Maybe those are the positive takeaways of it, but, really, I just wanna roast the sketch, so
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah,
I
go
have
ahead, go
two
ahead.
little things. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
two little
please.
things. One, this is not important, but they called it Godzilla 2, and nobody in the scene knew what Godzilla was. That bothered me.
Yeah.
It's
No,
a
that's
sequel
fair.
if it's a sequel to a Godzilla movie, and also the sequel to, like, the 3rd Godzilla movie, so this is, in this world, the 4th Godzilla movie.
This ship was not paying attention.
You gotta know who Godzilla you
You
would
gotta.
know. We would all know about that. So that bothered me in a way that probably shouldn't. And at the very end, Godzilla spit takes on the ship,
Yeah, that
and it
didn't
did not
didn't
read.
read.
Like,
It
they
didn't
should have
read.
cut to Mikey getting, like, hosed down by Godzilla. Like, it's like, I don't know how
Yeah.
you missed that moment of the beat. Like, if you're gonna build to Godzilla spit taking instead of doing his whatever sonic blast, like,
Yeah.
let's see Mikey Day get drenched.
That really did not read. It was funny. I watched it when I watched it a second time, I was like, "Okay, yes, this was what they were going for." Yeah, really did
Yeah.
not read. There are a lot of, like, weak buttons in this show in particular, actually.
I think it
Um,
was also AI generated, which
I
was
I would
Oh,
depressing.
yeah,
the special effect?
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
possible.
I hope not.
Yeah, I would believe it.
I've
I'm
heard
not
they've
sure.
been using a lot of AI.
Oh, that's no
Mm.
good. That's a bummer. Oh, that's a bummer. Okay. Try not to use AI for creative work. If you're listening to this, that's a good goal. um, okay. I would actually like to, oh yeah, well, I have a question for you guys. So with this one, I'm sort of wondering, it's a genuine question, if it wasn't so much about them like looking at a screen and having things surprising them that way, would that have like opened up the scene a little bit more, do you think? Like made it a little more dynamic? Was it the fact that it kept on having to be like, Captain, come look at this, like look at this? Is that part of why it felt slower? Like, is there another setup that would have like,
No, no,
I
I
don't
don't know.
think
I was
so, because I think
yeah,
anything else would just slow down. You'd get even further ahead. Like, you'd
right.
wanna get to the spit takes faster somehow, but I don't know how you get there fast enough that you don't
Right.
see it coming.
unless the thing that's happening that's causing the spit takes is unusual and
Right.
becomes the game instead somehow, but that would be a
Well,
different scene.
I guess what I'm just wondering is like, could something have been affecting could there have been something activated within the scene of the ship? Like something happening on the ship versus like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Versus like, look at that. Oh no, it's doing this. Oh no, it's doing that. Like what would it
It
look
would at
like if the
least
ship
be
started shaking or something like that? You know, if like, oh no, he's
If
got
it
us
was
or something.
surprising that it actually ended up on Mikey and did so in a, like, circuitous way because there was movement, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know.
It'd be
I don't
more
think there's
visually
anything about
interesting.
spit taking at this after it happens twice that could
Yeah.
surprise me, really.
Yeah. I think that the Whitest Kids You Know sketch, which is come up before, but I think that that's sort of, to me, sort of the better version of like a messy food sketch where it's just like plowing through straight ahead. The fun is seeing people get food on them. There's sort of no
Yeah.
breaks on it. And it's just go, go, go. I feel like that might be the stronger version of this idea.
I mean, they did the Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig did a version of this too, where like they were press junket people and Bill Hader would spit and then pour spaghetti on Kristen Wiig and stuff like that. But that sketch was like a minute, I
Yeah.
think.
That's
Like you get to at least that part of it was just like a
Yeah.
minute long and you're out.
yeah.
Like he does like
Yeah.
3 moves, and also just Kristen Wiig so charming that you
Yeah.
sort of like laugh just seeing her sit there. So
Yeah.
like it was quick. It was a quick if that's how I remember it, at least. It's been a while since I saw that sketch, but I remember it being a very fast spit pour food on Kristen Wiig
Yeah.
section.
I think that's maybe
That
what
might
it
be the
is.
key.
Yeah, just short, just short. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to the second sketch of the night, which is the Mother's Day movie for moms. So, what are our thoughts on this one?
I thought this was pretty good, pretty solid. Could it like if I was going to give notes on it, I'd be like tighten it up a little bit,
Yeah,
shorten it a tiny bit, but overall I thought it was good. Like I laughed a couple times and like enjoyed it. I don't know.
yeah. I thought this was really fun too. I liked it actually more on a second watch. I think in part because I think the main note that I would have given was would be to tweak the line, like devoid of conflict and drama. Because I really love the idea of the line, like everything just works out for the mom, but devoid of conflict and drama feels like a slightly different game in a way. So I think that would probably have like made that very slight adjustment and would have felt maybe I felt like a little indignant around that.
But that's also not really even a mom thing.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, movies are too dramatic.
Right.
Like
it's not a mom thing though. It is my wife's thing. So,
but it's Dara's thing for me.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like,
I don't think it's
too scary. It doesn't feel like a mom.
I don't associate
Unless
with
you
all
want
moms.
to connect it back to the idea of like once you have children, watching movies and TV where like the stakes are children is horrible. But that's not what it was. So that didn't really quite work to me.
Yeah. I also really loved the performance.
But I loved all the specifics that were on the game of things that moms like.
Yeah.
I wrote down, I was like, this is pretty good specifics. Is it accurate? ? I don't know. So like I sort of was like, I don't know if these are all mom things, because some of them are just like old people things or just like, but I was just like, I still enjoyed like the name tags and things like that. And like, they're expecting you to fall asleep. I was like, I don't know if all these fit, but they're enjoyable specifics.
Going upstairs and putting on a fashion show with everything in your closet felt specific to my.
Yeah. I think what I liked about this one, as I'm rethinking through this, the Ashley Padilla performance was so delightful that it felt specific to her as a proxy for moms. And I think that like I wrote down there's something kind of like golden retriever adjacent about this character, just a mom who's just like, oh, yay, this is so wonderful. And I think that she channeled that really well and tied those specifics got tied together because of that performance. So I thought that was nicely calibrated. I think the performance and the specifics.
You could have made this where it was like a movie made for one specific mom,
but
I don't know if it's that much funnier for that. I think it would make a little more sense, but I don't know if it gets any more laughs. So I think
that this one I felt like the majority of it was relatable enough that you at least knew sort of ballpark what it was talking about, even if it wasn't like specific to your mom. Maybe it felt more like just generic, like older relative or something like that, like in a way that felt relatable. I thought this one was pretty fun. And yeah, great specifics. Should we move on to the next one? Great. Okay. This was interesting. Okay. Everyone thinks they're a tough guy sketch. Okay. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts. Kevin, do you want to start first on this one? I found this one fascinating.
I have a question for you guys about this sketch, actually, because you guys have taught a lot more sketch writing than I have. So I thought it was pretty good, but they kept repeating the line, "He kicked my ass," like it's a catchphrase. And I came into SNL in like the Dana Carvey, Phil Hartman, John Lovitz age, which was tons of catchphrases that mostly feel like they worked. But like I feel like whenever there's catchphrases in a sketch and they repeat the same line 3 or 4 times, I don't like it anymore. So I don't know if that's just from watching too much comedy or if it's just not done well. But like, how do you guys feel about just catchphrases or saying the exact same line multiple times in a sketch as like a general rule, as well as specifically here?
I think that's really interesting. I'm going to let Madeline, I want you to answer this, but I will just say I am also curious to talk about that in the context of how some of the sketch felt similar to I Said Bitch, like the Key and Peele sketch too, which is also like which also kind of recurs that same phrase. But anyway, yeah, Madeline, what do you think about that?
I think that I don't mind it, but it has to be really like motivated by a behavior and point of view and almost like an action. And this was not. I thought this sketch really failed to win the audience over, which felt awkward. But I don't think I have anything against a catchphrase, but it would probably be pretty hard to find one that felt fresh enough.
Yes.
In 2026.
Yes.
But I don't think it's impossible.
When I was watching this sketch, I was like, if you replaced all the kicked my asses after the first one with lines like, oh yeah, punched me in the nose, or like, oh, broke my jaw 3 places. Like, because one of the bigger laughs I had in this was like, he captured me.
Yeah,
because it wasn't he kicked my ass, and it was like a very different specific, and I was like, oh, this is more fun to me. I kind of wish they all had like different specific descriptions of what happened. I think it's funnier. I think the
Yes.
audience would be more into it.
Well, we got ahead of the kick my ass very
Yes.
quickly,
Yeah,
so it
similar
just
to the
stopped
spit
being
take.
funny.
Similar to spit take, and yeah, exactly. I think that this is where I'm like, I think that some of the writing was part of the problem here. But here, okay, so here's my thought on this sketch. I thought this was a fascinating specimen. First, because even before I understood like what game they were going for, I was like, that was a confusing start to the sketch. Like the guy comes over, he's like, could you keep it down? And they say, get out of here. And then they say, everyone's like they yell at him to go in, and like, everyone's a tough guy now. So this is already a little confusing because they're talking about that guy as a tough guy, and then they're talking about them, but we're being the tough guys, and then they're talking about. But the fun I think is supposed to be the contrast between their being acting tough and sounding like they're leading up to something tough, and then they keep coming back to, and then I got beat, and I got then they kicked my ass, right?
I don't
And
think
it's like
they're
the specifics are supposed to point towards it being more and more goofy that they got kicked in the they had their asses kicked. But to me, the most fun part came up like at the classic, like probably 3.5 pages into the sketch with that, like the quarter check specifics and the gummy bear situation. To me, I was like, I think that this sketch is actually not what it's being for the first 2 or 3 pages. I think the fun part is getting to these really bizarre scenarios of like, it's not like you're getting like talking about it as though it's a situation where you got your ass kicked, but instead it's like this weird psychological thing that's happened to you, that isn't like a clean story. I think to me that is the more fun thing to play in this. Curious what you guys think, though.
I could see that. I could see that as a take. I just wanted to have more variety to the way they tell these stories. I forgot that it started that way, and it's weird that that person didn't beat them up, I guess, since in every other version of their story they get beat up. So it is a weird way to start the sketch. But yeah, I mean, it could all have been I don't know if the first one was psychological, it works, but you could have gotten to that sooner for sure.
Yeah, I think
I'm almost like, oh, if you were gonna start with that level of it, or even play that slightly more specific game instead of person who shouldn't necessarily be kicking my ass is kicking my ass. And I think there's like a comment on like working class masculinity here, right? That like somehow didn't quite like made it a little awkward for me. But you might need like a voice of reason to be like, hey, isn't it like a little weird how people are always like picking on you guys in a psychologically torturous kind of way? Like that would be a very hard game sell kind of, but I did really like those specifics more. Maybe there's also something strange about how there's 3 of that. It's not like peas in a pod, it's triplets in a pod or something. That should work though. I just could not stop looking at Marcello's prosthetics,
his fake belly,
and hairy
his fake belly.
arms. I blacked out for the first 2 pages, I think, because I was just like,
that's
what is
so
it?
Funny.
Why is that's not exaggerated enough to be? Why?
Yeah, the belly was a weird
I was
one.
like looking for too many clues about who this character was from the
right,
stomach, and no one else had anything weird about them. It just really messed me up.
Yeah, I think like I almost wonder. Okay, so I just want to want to puzzle through this one more because I almost wonder if instead of like them acting like tough guys, but then getting kicked in the ass, like feels like almost like it was the game that was being played most of the time. But I almost feel like in my version, if it was in Brothers In, I'd be like, hey, this is the part that I find really funny. It would be the part where we get to the point of this, like, this guy kicked my ass, but instead of like after setting up normal ass kicking, like the reveal being like this, some sort of weird way of having your ass kicked again, working towards this weird gummy bear situation. I think to me that, I think that would have been the most. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought. But anyway, I think that to me, that's what I would have said of a base reality. Sorry, I remember now. I think that basically, I wonder if it would have made more sense for them to No, sorry, I retract what I was about to say. I was gonna
Well,
say,
like, what if we saw it too? Like,
yeah,
what if we saw someone come pick on them instead of just constantly talking it through? Like, what would that have been playing out in
yeah,
front of them? Especially if you hadn't started with the weird Jeremy Colhane beat.
Yeah.
right.
I
Like,
also
how
wonder if
did
you
they end up getting their butts what I get maybe the question that wasn't answered to me and that I think was like something about working class masculinity that I didn't quite like grok onto is why were these men getting their asses kicked?
Mm. It's so funny. I was totally not bothered by that. For
I,
me, it was just like this like the difference between a person who shouldn't be able to kick my ass did kick my ass is like less interesting to me than like being like, you know how people kick your ass sometimes and it's like a really specific bizarre scenario of how that happened, right? I feel like those are two separate things.
Yeah. I also wonder if they could straight man each other somewhat, just being like, "You let that happen to you?
Yeah,
yeah,
Oh
right.
that
man,
would have been really
I would never
helpful.
let that happen to me. Here's a story I'll tell." And then his story ends up with him getting his ass kicked anyway.
Right.
He's like, "Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I guess I did get my ass kicked in that story," just whatever, like the idea of like,
Right.
"No, nope, you're right. I guess I did do the same thing."
That would have been more active. Just like somebody in some way acknowledging what was
Yeah.
happening
Right.
would have been helpful. I also really disliked the IV up the butt and the both feet in his ass thing. It's like putting more stuff in butts here isn't
Yeah.
like a funny, you're distracting from what the pattern actually
Right.
could be, which is something more about like these guys and this behavior.
I think there's also, like, the thing about the son and kick my ass, my wife kicked my ass, where I was like, "Oh, that's kind of just a bummer, actually." Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it felt also a little de-heightened in some ways. Yeah, I think this is interesting. This one, honestly,
I really think the like prosthetic belly and the hairy arms is really important because but I think it's
I
I think
mean,
it's
I
because
noticed the
Marcelo
belly right away. It
is
bothered me too. So
trying to play like a really specific man. Like I think he
mm,
is almost like trying to parody a type of man. And
right,
I don't think like including Matt Damon and Keenan as triple P's in a pod helped that idea. And I think it muddied whatever Marcelo's idea of this man is. I just
right,
wonder if this was maybe like a character sketch or like Kevin said, there needed to be some kind of voice of reasoning somewhere in here more than there was.
right, right. Because yeah, okay,
Like
I think that's
Marcelo
right.
was going for something so specific that they made him a prosthetic belly and rolled up his sleeves and put hair on his arm. Do you know what I mean? And then Matt Damon and Keenan were just normal.
I think they
That's
just love
already unusual.
Right.
SNL. The last few years just loved elaborate costumes. And
Yeah.
so if they, I think during the sketch, they're like, we could add some prosthetics to this.
I I think sorry, I wanna step back for a second and
Like,
ask you
remember
guys a
the Cyclops
question.
sketch from a few
Oh,
weeks
yeah, that
ago? It's
was
like
really
they didn't.
elaborate.
They're just like, what if they're
Yeah.
Cyclopses?
Wait, I have a question for you guys as fellow teachers. I feel like something that's interesting that this sketch makes me think of. I feel like this conversation is really interesting. I feel like sometimes you get a sketch as a teacher or a director that's just like a little harder to note for some reason. Like it's just, I don't know if it's sometimes, I feel like there have been times where it's like someone's writing style I have a harder time noting, or like maybe there's an idea that feels like some ideas when they get really tangled up, they're actually like easier to note. But this idea feels like harder to note for me in a way that's like I'm having trouble getting my bearings around it. And I think that it feels like there's like a few flips of the base reality that are going on that are like making it really hard. I think this is a sketch where I would just need to be like, what is the thing that you find funny here?
I suspect that it is because this is coming from Marcelo's point of view about a certain kind of like
Yeah.
Latinx man that like
Mm,
isn't clear to me. Like
mm,
I think if we could ask Marcelo like who's this guy, he would tell you who this guy is and he'd be like, "Oh, play it like this."
right.
I'd almost guarantee that is how the
Yeah.
notes would go.
I kind of feel like the goal was like a guy who talks really tough, but his stories always wind up being that
Mhm.
his ass got kicked was the idea, and then it felt like they were running out of steam, so they moved in this other direction that I find more interesting. I think that's sort of my overall step back analysis of it.
Yeah.
But
I
it
think
was
that's all. That
that
could
might
be it,
that
right?
might
I
just
just
be
it's just
it.
not a strong enough game, and then they just talked for too long,
Yeah.
and
It
the
was
audience got further and further away from them.
I'm also just curious at the table read, like what parts popped the biggest at the table. Like that would tell you so much about it, probably.
Mhm.
But like, we can't
Mhm.
see their table reads and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, my big
Curious.
pop was he captured me,
That was so
and
funny.
like, and
Yes.
then like I
Funny.
was just like that whole section. I was like, oh, I'm into this section more than it's
Yeah.
like it
Absolutely.
surprised me, and like so like if I was hearing, I'd be like, oh, that part really popped. How can we get some of
Yes.
those without ruining that one? How can we get some more of those sort of moves before then?
Completely agreed.
Could
Completely
the
agreed.
sketch almost just be like tough guy telling a story about how he got kidnapped?
Yeah,
It
I like
maybe
that.
almost could be just this captured story. Could be the
I
whole
think
thing.
so. Yeah, I feel because I agree. I think that all three of us sort of
I
gravitate towards that
I
part.
think I think I like it less than both of you. I think everything else about it was horrifically unfunny. And only that was the quarter was funny. But really nothing else. Nothing
Okay.
about the main idea
I
was
think the
working for me.
reveal of the person in the wheelchair beating him up worked somewhat, but like not hard enough. Like, because by the time that reveal happened, you were sort of already like past that story. But like that idea, I think could have hit if it was just sort of delivered sooner and harder,
Mm.
possibly. But that's my feeling on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt a little weird on that one. I did like the priest beat though. The priest be like that it turned out it was at his daughter, but again, it just felt like didn't plug in to anything else. So yeah, I don't know. This was a gnarly one. I think we should move on just for time, but like
Sure, yeah.
but I genuinely am really curious to hear other people's thoughts on this one, or like what if for fellow teachers, like what note you might have given this, or what question you might have asked the writer if you had gotten this in a class. Because I do think there's something interesting here that is like reactivating a part of my brain that would sometimes be like, ooh, I'm not totally sure what the best way to move forward is with this idea. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the next one. So this was a pre-tape, a tidy care kitty litter. This was an interesting one too. Yeah, Madeline.
I thought this was pretty fun. Like
Mhm.
it broke all of my rules about the
Your face tricked me. I thought you didn't like this one.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I do. This probably was the one that made me laugh the most.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this might have been this and the mom one, the only funny ones all night. I think the way that it was revealed to be the son, like them, I don't know, it all made me laugh, but it being the dog was such a letdown at the end.
Yeah, that
You
was
have to keep heightening.
yeah. Yeah.
Find another clever turn. What a sad ending to, I thought, a sketch that was building nicely.
Yeah. Kevin, what were your thoughts on this one?
I didn't mind the dog ending, but I liked it. Similar to the mom sketches, like if it was like 5% shorter, I think it's awesome. I think it was
Yeah.
really good though. Watching them slowly go insane thinking about this is just really funny.
Yeah.
I could have even done with a little bit more of that, sort of them going crazy. Like, why would he do that? There's a bathroom right around the corner.
Yes.
Like that sort of things. Like
that's my main note for this one is very similar to that, Kevin. I think that I think that they should have cut out some of the like you don't want to know stuff, because I think that was, to me, that they lingered in like you don't want to know, we don't want to tell you. So I was like, ooh, what is it? And then it was like kind of underwhelming. I think that they could have either, if they kept it, I think that they should have done something where they're like, oh, that's not so bad, and then we watch them sort of be like, wait, this is bad. Like why is someone peeing in the litter? Like I think it would have been fun to watch that grow if we did keep this as it was, but otherwise I would have
just having someone verbalize, like make them try to verbalize why peeing in the litter box is bad, because like why is it bad? It
didn't
bad,
seem,
I don't really know
it
why.
didn't seem that bad to me.
I'm scooping my son's pee. I'm shoveling his pee. I don't like that. It's like you could.
Yeah, this is a good idea. I would like to pitch on this for a long time. Yes, it's a funny idea.
It's a very funny idea.
You could cut that whole you don't want to know bit. Just have it be like, what's blue mean? Just kind of like a slightly pregnant pause followed by, that means it's a human. That's human.
Right. Be like, oh,
and then like,
yeah, get to it faster.
Watching them having to deal with that, I think would be more fun to like the mechanics of it before it gets to the big screaming plays. But
and
yeah,
I think James Austin could deliver that line in a way that says, "You don't want to know this, but I'm telling you anyway," without having to say those things. Like he's got that sort of chops of like that nuance.
Yeah. But a really fun idea. I agree. The blackout totally did not work for me either. I was like, oh, feels like a prank or something. I don't know. It just felt like, oh, it's not. I don't know. Just kind of bummed me out a little.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a fun one. Shall we move on to weekend update? There were 3 different bits. The first was the Met Gala, Tucker Carlson talking about the Met Gala. This is the second Tucker Carlson appearance. So yeah, let's talk about this one. What do you guys think about this one?
I liked it. I sometimes I wonder if these people are big enough that the audience knows who they are, like the teenage audiences. But I think because of like shows and all the other, if they're watching comedy shows on YouTube clips, they probably do. But because like his laugh and all those things are so specific. But because I know Tucker Carlson from watching all these sort of shows, like I like him like reviewing the Met Gala and doing things that aren't news related. It's a very fun take.
Yeah. What did you think, Madeline?
I was just delighted this time. It's clear the jokes were good. This is a good desk bit.
I had slightly more mixed feelings on this one. I love this impression. I think it's great. I think that the first Tucker Carlson impression they did to me was like a little bit stronger because it sort of was like hooked into that kind of conspiracy angle he has. I think that the him saying like, and I have to be attracted to this felt like closer to like that angle in a way that I liked. But I think some of it felt maybe a little bit more like Tucker Carlson does stand up to me in a way that I think I would have just like could have used a little bit more of the character sort of just being.
I think I enjoyed that sketch too.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson is
this
an open
one
mic.
I think read better to me than the last one. One, because I'd seen it already, I guess. But 2, I felt like it was just him more like finding conservative things to say about liberal things. So it was almost a little cleaner in terms of how I understand Tucker Carlson. It was like simpler. They simplified it. So for some reason it just like felt smoother to me, but I also see how it's a little bit like, more like him doing stand up.
Yeah.
I mean, I would enjoy the further away it gets from the smaller the thing he's talking about. I think the more I might enjoy it. Like if he was just sort of like reviewing bodegas in his neighborhood, I think I would like be like, oh, I'd super enjoy that. Like why is he talking about these things? Who cares? Just, and just like finding those angles, whatever it is. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, it's such an impressive impression too. Like I don't know. I do think this was strong. I thought this was strong. I just think like to me it felt like just there's like a little bit of a fine line between your character doing the thing versus like doing jokes as the person that they are or something. Which I think this one felt like a little bit on the border of to me. And yeah, really great specifics in this one too, I will say. Okay, should we talk about the kamikaze dolphins? Yeah,
we should.
Yeah, I think we should. This one didn't feel super successful to me. I think that it was well, yeah, actually Kevin, why don't you jump in? What were your thoughts on this?
This was just that they wanted to put on costumes, I think. There wasn't, I don't know what this was other than that, like it was like half of it was like, look at our tails and like look at and I don't know, there wasn't much there. Like if it was dolphins like upset that this is their job, that's something, or proud of their job, or just any take on their job, I might have had a thought on it, but it just was mostly just like, I don't know, there wasn't anything there other than we're in dolphin costumes. Isn't this a crazy thing?
There was so much
puns.
Yeah, there was so much real estate that went to the puns, and I think that to me it's like, okay, if the fun that they want to have is like dolphins who are like ready and willing to die and have nothing to lose, like that to me feels more specific. But they got so sidetracked in the puns that I feel like the like dolphins willing to get freaky because they have nothing to lose. I think they could have done a whole bunch of other stuff off of that. So yeah, I think the puns got really distracting and just took up too much real estate.
Even just like intense nihilistic dolphins would have been fine if you set up the idea that like dolphins are usually fun and nice and like these ones aren't. Like that would have been fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's again another one where you can use the voice of reason characters to lead but yeah, this one didn't quite work for me, I think.
Here's
Dolphins
my
are some of
alternate.
the smartest animals in the sea. How'd you get talked into that? Sorry.
Yeah.
My alternate take is a dolphin round table with a bunch of different dolphins, one of which is a kamikaze dolphin, discussing their different career choices.
Mm.
Like you, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
like, you want to
Make it
wear
a
these silly
longer-
costumes, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I will say that I was not familiar with kamikaze dolphins as a thing, and assuming that is a thing, I guess it set up clearly what it's referring to, so that's something that you can learn from this.
They've definitely had dolphins trained to like, and I don't know if this was ever put in action, to like run into underwater mines and things like that.
Yeah, I think
That's a real thing for
Yeah.
sure. So it's not crazy that this would also be something. I don't know if any of these things have ever happened, or if it's just things that like governments have looked into and been like, no, it doesn't work well enough.
Yeah. Well, I had never heard of such a thing before, and by about 30 seconds into the sketch, I was onboarded into what it is. So that is a successful example of getting people caught up to your base reality quickly. And I don't think the rest of it was super successful. But that's a takeaway that you can take from this.
Great costumes.
Yeah, great costumes. And then the last thing was and Weekend Update was the Jane Wick line. I'm late, deal with it song, which I thought was very funny. Good specifics. Yeah, that's my only thought on that bit.
Yeah, this one started. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this one that much, but by the end, I was totally on board. So
Yeah.
whatever. By the end, I was like, by the time she was eating ice cream, coming in late eating ice cream, I was like, oh, I'm totally on board with the sketch now.
A great testament to good specifics, to like really well calibrated specifics. Yeah, this was delightful.
I also do think, like, just to give her credit, I'm not sure I totally understand the like bad piano playing. I get that she did it on TikTok before she got cast, but the like the idea of the person who's late saying they don't give, like, saying that, like, just the idea of it, I do think is very strong, even beyond the specifics. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Like, late person laying it all out for you.
The Jane Wick Lane songs are interesting because I thought about this for one of the past ones. I was like, if this wasn't sung, would it be funny? And I'm like, I think it would be less funny. So is it just funnier? Should all sketches just be sung?
Right.
That's where my mind starts going, is because I'm just like, it does like, it's like the sketch is pretty good, and then it's like it's sung, so I like it a lot more. And I don't know why that is.
I find these actually quite interesting.
Yeah, well, because I think that it was, once it is put in the medium of a song, like we're used to songs being like an important message of something you believe deep in your heart, right? So the idea of like this song coming from your heart being about like, screw you, I'm late and you're just gonna have to take a Klonopin and deal with it. Like, I think that is a fun, unusual thing from what we expect of musical songs. So it is like, yeah, I think that is actually a pretty clean.
That's just where my brain goes.
No,
I don't think it should be sung, but my brain starts going. It's like, maybe, because I can't fathom. I
think you guys are right. That's why it's good. Like, it's pretty clever, actually.
It's really fun. It's like, this is not how a song is supposed to go, or not what is supposed to fuel somebody writing or singing a song. I love that. I think that's really a fun observation. Awesome. Okay, shall we move on to the next sketch? We have 2 more sketches of this evening. This is the substitute teacher sketch. So I feel like this is the one we were all maybe circling, right? Okay, great. Okay, great. All right, let's chat about this one. What did you guys think about this one?
I just think he needed to dance bigger. I wanted him to dance way, way bigger. He was just too subtle with his dancing, and I was like, just really go for it. Like, if he really went for this sketch and just sort of was dancing around these students who were not interested in it at all, I think I love it. But as it was, I was like, oh, I like it. I like the idea of it. But like, I weirdly was like, Matt Damon is not committing to this sketch. But he's playing a teacher not committing to it, so he's not committing to it. I was like, I just want the guy who super dances, and then you can still have that end where he's like super embarrassed that it didn't work. But I
That's
want him to like
interesting.
dance where he's like, where I believe he's convinced they're about to all get up and dance with him, and he is dancing that hard.
That's interesting. Sorry, Madeline first. What did you think about this one?
No, I want to hear what you're.
I was gonna say, part of me is like, I kind of like the level of dancing that he was doing, like the idea that he's like not like that he did sort of expect them to jump it. I see what you mean though. Like if it was like a little bit more of like the offering of like, but I kind of I feel like I really kind of liked this one, honestly. Like I thought it was a big swing in that it's basically in some ways like a blackout sketch, right? Like it's like a really long lead up to it ending with nobody getting up and dancing. And then the few lines afterwards, right? Um, I liked that it was like slow and patient and that that it really is about just like them like not reacting or like just looking at him kind of in disdain. Like I think that was really that was fun. I feel like my only note with this one would have been I'm sorry, that actually this is a genuine question. Would it have been more fun if he was getting ever so slightly more visibly desperate as it was going before he stopped, like ever so slightly? Because
I think his performance was off.
You think so?
Yeah, it didn't work. I think this sketch was really unsuccessful. The audience was not on board, I didn't think. And I think it's for a couple of reasons. Like I also admire the swing it took.
Yeah.
But I think it failed. To me, this was a failure. I think that we needed to know a little bit, like just a whiff of a justification of why he thought this was a treat. Like, why does he think? And I don't want him to be like, dancing is a treat because it's fun and it gets off your endorphins. So you're gonna like it. I just wanted him to be like, you never get to do this in school with your teeth, right? Or like just one little thing to understand why, because I don't think it was clear. And then I do think that like the punchline is actually their faces, right?
Yes.
And we kept cutting to their faces, and I think you lost the audience because it's impossible to heighten like not enjoying or like just being so embarrassed you can't react. You can't heighten that. So every time they continued to cut to a new person, it got fewer and fewer laughs. And then Matt Damon is just stuck there as this like very famous host doing nothing that can make the audience laugh because it isn't really up to him. So I think it either needed I was just longing for it to stop much sooner, or like maybe needed to go on twice as long. But I didn't really want that either. And I do think there's potentially a world where like you stopped and like rested it and he tried again. Like he shouldn't have tried again, but he doubled down again. Like or it was much shorter. But I think that like relying so much on the faces as the punchline was losing the audience.
Right. And the audience is also experiencing it mostly as a stage picture, a full stage picture versus like the cuts that are happening.
Yeah, it just died.
SNL has fallen in love over the last like 15 years with like cutting to faces. Like they didn't do that as much. I mean, maybe like they couldn't cut as much. I do think it is. Like Keenan's faces were so funny that like I think they rely on it more and more for sketches, and I don't think you need that. But you know, I still think if he danced more, that also would show that he thinks it's cool, that he thinks it's a treat. And I imagine here's who I imagine doing it. Somebody that we know, but I don't know if our listeners know. Jim Santangeli is who I pictured in this sketch. And I was like, I would love this sketch if Jim Santangeli was dancing around and nobody danced with him. And then watching Jim Santangeli sheepishly be embarrassed afterwards. I would be like, it would kill. I believe it would kill.
I think
he would go for it. He would go so big.
Matt Damon again.
Yeah.
Or like if Chris Farley did this, or you know, just people with like that big crazy energy. I think like they could nail it. I think, you know, Will Forte maybe not, because I think he I don't know if he could sell like the come down at the end, but like Will Forte would do crazy dancing sketches, like those sort of people who just have that sort of manic energy. I think that's who
Right.
you'd want here. Or Jack Black, I think, could have nailed this. If this was pitched
Right.
to Jack Black and he took it, I think this sketch is really good. And you
Yeah.
also believe right away if Jack Black's like, this is a treat. You don't need any justification if Jack Black tells you this is a treat and plays music.
Right. Do you think he should have been visibly more like disappointed as he went along that people weren't joining in? I feel like that to me felt like maybe like I feel like getting more of a sense of him feeling a little like, oh, okay, this isn't happening here. Okay, great, we're on to the net. I feel like a hint more of
Yeah,
that.
I think his
would have-
interactions with the students can get more desperate.
Yeah.
But also, I think his dancing would need to ramp up.
Yes. Yes. I
Like,
think
if
that's
this all
right.
ramps up, I really think this sketch is pretty good. And then I think it still works with that long come down of the students just going, wow, afterwards. But I don't know if
Yeah.
you need it, but I think that still would hit pretty well.
Yeah. A question that Nico asked, which I think is really a fun one, just guys. He was like, do you think that the fact that Matt Damon is like, or I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact phrasing. But like, is the fact that Matt Damon is like a handsome man, like, does that step on this at all? Like, is that part of, I think though that you're right, Kevin, that I think that maybe just the largeness of the dance maybe is more
I
the
think Matt Damon
variable.
could have pulled this off. Like, I do, because I think Matt Damon can play sort of like loser, weirdly, even though he's so handsome. Like, George Clooney, I don't think could pull this off, but I do think Matt Damon can sort of bridge both sides of this sort of like the awkward substitute teacher. I
Right.
think that's a role Matt Damon can play.
Right. I think Nico's observation was that like it sort of doesn't feel like it feels like whatever is happening is not fulfilling how humiliating it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think that is very aligned with what you're saying, Kevin, about like the size, like the scale of the dance needed.
I mean, I don't think he pulled it off. So there's an argument
No.
that he can't do it. But like, I weirdly think like a good director could have just been like,
Yeah.
just super go for it. Go crazy in this sketch. Go way too big. If they
I
did that
also-
like dress, I think like, and it would kill. I think they'd be like, he would go even bigger than for the show or whatever. He'd be like, oh man, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I feel like it
Maybe I'm
also
wrong.
could-
Maybe it would just be like, oh yeah, you went real big and it bombed even worse. And
Yeah.
then
But I feel like,
don't
but
know.
hey, the spirit of the big swing, big risk,
Yeah.
big reward, right? I also do feel like maybe there could have been more. Like I thought that one of the things, like the fishing, like there being no movement and response. I feel like there could have been a little bit more like dynamic dance stuff where it's like you really look like you're just out to dry if you're doing it and nobody else is doing the counterpart of it. I thought that was a fun detail. But yeah, okay. I feel like you guys are convincing me a little bit more with this one that it could have been.
What was
stronger.
the Amber Alert? He was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
yeah,
it's
I
an
didn't-
Amber Alert," right? I think like you could have even used he'd been there for a couple weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
it sounded like
Like,
that. Yeah.
He could have used specifics from knowing the students to like try
Yeah.
to call them up and fail in just to like, you don't know me.
I think
Like
that would have
kind
been great
of way
too.
that could have been much funnier too.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a
You
writing thing. I
drop a
don't know.
line. You drop a line at the top where he's like, I feel like I've gotten to know you guys. And so I've, you're my favorite class I've subbed, and bloom. And just like, yeah, and then he's dropping specifics. You're on the football team? Come on.
Yeah.
Just sort of like things he knows about them, whatever he gleaned. You got a B+ on that test. Celebrate with me.
Yeah.
Or just like whatever he was able to glean in that class.
Something, yeah, that could have been joke. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
wanted it way bigger. And I didn't get it. And
Yeah,
that's where I
no.
was just like, oh, Matt Damon. I feel like that must have been what he was going for, but it felt like he got to that point. He's like, I can't do it. I'm gonna do half of that. I don't know if
was
that's true.
Why
That's what
did
it
he
felt
think
like.
teens would like this? Like, I want almost kind of in the way of the tidy cat litter ad of just like, oh no, like my girlfriend told me you would like this and I listened to her and I shouldn't have listened to her and I know that, but now I told you that and it's worse.
Right.
Why did he think that would work? That's
Right.
could be so funny.
There's an alternate version where you have a voiceover the whole time, right? Where when he's dancing and not talking, saying those sorts of doubts.
I feel like, yeah, I don't know.
It need a little whiffs to have jokes other than the faces.
Yeah.
The faces are funny, but it's not enough.
Yeah. I feel like I think that maybe just the scale of the dancing to me, that feels like that checks out. And the little whiff of what he thought it was about. But I'm still glad that they did it. I think it's fun to go for this type of sketch and not the kind of thing that they usually do. So I hope they aren't too discouraged by it because I think there's something really fun and interesting there. Last sketch of the night. The auctioneer's crumbling marriage sketch. This one had a title card at the beginning too, so kind of in a more of an old school way, kind of like setting up, this is the game that we're gonna play, right?
It felt like a very old kind of
Yes,
idea.
agreed. Yeah, what did you guys think about this one? Well, yeah, you go first.
I wrote close enough. I don't know. That sounds like damning it, but like when it started, this feels like the sketch that if you have people who are really good at that auctioneer voice, it could really kill.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Matt Damon and Sarah Sherman were quite good enough at those voices for it to work. But then by the end, I was sort of like, it was okay. So I don't know.
I think if the whole thing had just been much shorter, it would have been fine. They could have moved through that beginning fight faster and gotten through to the people popping in.
Yeah.
If it was about half as long, I think it might have been a fun diversion. But there's just something about the idea of this that felt like, oh, is this the like 10-to-1 sketch? Really? Like,
Yeah. I feel like it felt a little mathy in some ways, this one to me. Like, because I think it was like, okay, is this supposed to be like a fun high wire act where it's like we're watching the actors, like this is so hard that they're trying to do this live, fast. What do the cue cards even look like for this sketch? Like that must be crazy and very cool. Like, and I feel like it wasn't quite capturing that feeling of like we're watching a live thing that's like, wow, how are they going to do it? There was that run that Sarah had where it was like there was like a really that was, I can't remember even which one it was. There's one very impressive fast run, but it like wasn't sustained enough throughout the whole thing. It didn't feel as improbable, and then it felt like it sort of just became like goofy, like kind of wording jokes a little bit. And then, but aside from them saying things fast, it felt like we stalled. Like it felt like the first, like basically the first beat was basically 2 pages long and should have been maybe cut down so that we, as Madeline was saying, like just feels like it could have been cut down a little so that we got to the entrances faster.
You saying that, Marina, is making me think about sketch cram experiences where like sometimes you might have a really complicated cram sketch. So you're just like, oh, we're going to put our funniest actor on this one. And not that we have a funniest actor. Everybody's always equally funny. And you're like, oh, I'm going to put this person on this. This is a really strong thing. And then you realize that like the rest of the show suffered a little bit to make this one thing work. I wonder if like Matt Damon put so much energy into trying to get these lines that the rest of his performances fell a little flat.
He was running those lines the whole night.
Yeah, or something like that. I don't know, just logistically.
Yeah.
Because you're right. This would be quite a lot of work to
right.
This.
Right. Yeah. It would be really hard. But I don't think that you but that's the problem, I think, is that you don't it doesn't, like, in a way you almost, this is a sketch where you almost like ideally are showing work a little bit more so that the audience is having fun with it as a high wire act.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was coming across.
It didn't even occur to me until you said it, honestly.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's, in a way, I feel like it's kind of an interesting counterpart to the spit take sketch, because I think the spit take sketch is like, it's obviously like not a high wire act in the same way, but you are a little pet arrival. No, I love it.
Come for attention.
But I think there's something about like watching the actor having to deal with a thing, I think is sort of something that those two sketches in theory have in common, but we were very tuned into it for the Godzilla sketch, and a little too disconnected from it for this one, when I think that's really what the sketch was maybe supposed to be about or something. Yeah, I don't know. That's my takeaway from this one. I just think that the idea of like talking fast wasn't quite enough. So I was relieved when the other appearances happened, to at least make the scene a little more dynamic. But yeah, any other thoughts on this one?
I'm a big James Austin fan, and I wish he was the lead in that auctioneer sketch. I think he could have sold it when he came in at the very end, my cat's butt. Sorry. I think like he delivered his lines really well. I was like, I bet if he was in the sketch, it'd be 10% better. And maybe then, like I said, I wrote close enough in my notes. It's like, oh, maybe then I like it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm just a big fan of it.
Blame Damon.
I feel bad because I do think he's got the DNA of a very strong host.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
Something was a little off.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I do think that in looking over it, like the live sketches were just like a little long, right? Like a little uncontained in a way that maybe is the kind of thing that can happen when you have a strong host in theory. So maybe this is part of where like some of the swings were bigger.
If you found out he had gotten sick earlier that night and missed the dress rehearsal show, but then recovered, this is not what happened. Like you'd be like, oh yeah, I can see that.
You know, it's funny. I think I still feel a little different from you guys. I think I still feel like Matt did. I think he did fine. I still think this is more of a writing problem in this particular episode.
I think that's true.
Always a writing problem.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I've said this to you guys in
idea
texts or messages. I feel like the last few years, the writers of the show aren't as concerned with game. Like they'll play games sometimes, but that's not their main focus. Their main focus is tangents and funny specifics. And like sometimes those work and you'll get isolated laughs, and sometimes those work and you get a full sketch, and sometimes they don't work at all. But that's the stuff I think that drives them more. That's what gets them more excited. I just see more sketches where like that stuff, there's like sketches with 2 or 3 sub games because it's like they get enamored by that stuff. That's what they like. That's what's working for them. And I truly believe that is their goal. I don't know that. I've not talked to anyone who writes for the show, but like it just feels like that's what they're going for a lot of the sketches. I didn't see that too much tonight with sub games and side games, but like a lot of times I see that happening. So I don't feel like their game chops are that strong, and I don't think that is like an accident.
Right. Well, I think that there's so many, like, as I remember when I started writing sketch, I kind of bristled at the idea of like the game felt very restrictive. And I think though that like so much of game is really just about like committing to and celebrating an idea. And I think that my problem with this season has maybe just been like, I don't feel like there's been enough celebration of the ideas. Which just means that there's like a lot that's kind of being left on the table. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think that that's
just my working theory. It's a theory I have about the show over the last few years, not just this year, the last few seasons.
I think it's always the same. It's always the same quality. It never changes. And being less good at game just means you're not quite as good of a writer yet. And when you're a better writer, you play game better.
Right.
And eventually they get a little better and then they turn over and it's usually just always the same quality. One or 2 good sketches, 2 stinkers, mostly fine ones.
Yeah. I just feel like there haven't been consistently 1 or 2 like great sketches. There have been 2 good sketches. And I think good seasons, there's those good sketches are great sketches.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Like, I feel like I've been through like, since I started watching SNL, like 4 eras where it's like, oh man, it just feels like the best of this season will be really strong. Where I think the best of this season would be like, oh, it's pretty good. And instead of like great. And you would want that. If you did like a best of the season, you would expect it to be like 10 great sketches.
And this year it would just be an Ashley Padilla.
Right. Yeah.
It'd be mostly pre-taped stuff, I feel like.
I think there have been some really good Ashley Padilla characters, but I think that's interesting too, because I do think that the Ashley Padilla's character sketches are sort of a testament in a way to what we're talking about in terms of the structure of a sketch, being about celebrating your idea and the thing that's fun and unusual, right? Which is the game, because those sketches tend to be very specific in that character's point of view, in that character's deal, right? So she specifies, right? Like it becomes specific. It becomes a clean game. But yeah, anyway, we are over time, so we should probably just wrap up here. But this has been so much fun to talk about. I do think this was an interesting show that was actually like kind of hard to untangle for me. So it's really nice to be able to talk through these sketches with you guys, because I do think that a lot of them were just trickier sketches to note. But talking with you guys has really helped me get a little more clarity on why that was. Before we go, I would love to hear if anybody has any plugs. So Madeline, we'll start with you. Anything you'd like to plug?
I'm just doing story coaching. If anybody has a script or a novel or audio drama comedy that they want notes on, I would love to help. You can go to my website, MadelineBaldanzi.com.
Awesome. And how about you, Kevin? Anything to pitch?
If you are in that Venn diagram of I like sketch comedy and comic books, I host a weekly podcast with my brother called Screw It. We're just going to talk about comics, where we talk about comics, mostly ones that we grew up loving. We're just covering Hellboy comics recently. So if that's a thing that you know what it is and you're excited by it, you'd probably enjoy our podcast.
Awesome. Great. And then my plug, as always, is just keep spreading the word about the Unusual Things book, which you will hopefully have some updates on that in the not so distant future. So follow the Instagram page, spread the word about the Substack, and tell all your friends to leave reviews and all that stuff, so that more people can find it and nerd out about sketch together. Guys, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun, and I will talk to you soon.
Thanks, Farina.
Okay, bye, guys. Thank you. Bye.